Okay, so the last process that we're going to look at is one of the most important processes that you could possibly use when producing your own music. It's called automation. So automation essentially is where we take parameters from our effects units or our instruments and we automate the movement of those parameters. So for instance, I could take my frequency control and slide it up and down with my mouse, okay? And that'll affect my bass line. I'll play it back and do that and it will sound like this. But obviously, as we're getting more and more tracks set up, we can't come back and keep doing that. We've got to set up a process where we have that movement play back on its own. So this is where automation comes into effect. Automation is a parameter that we can access in our piano roll view. So we've been predominantly in our instrument rack view with our signal chain. For this one, we're going to flick over to our piano roll. And down the bottom, next to the two musical notes, you'll see this line with two nodes on each end. So if I click on that, it brings up a menu where we can select parameters from our instrument rack. So for instance, if I click on the top menu, I can choose any of the parameters on my bass track. So for instance, I might want to access parameters within my auto filter, which is what I actually want to access. But I also could go into the overdrive menu. I could go into the mixer menu, which will let me control panning and volume, the compressor, the saturator, all different effects that I might be using. So let's go into the auto filter, because if I go back to our instrument rack, that's the effect I want to manipulate at the moment. And then in the menu underneath, I can select some parameters within that effect. So the one I want to access is the frequency control, okay? So frequency control is here, okay? It's under the filter menu, and as you can see, FREQ, that's short for frequency. So what I can do is I can start drawing in the shape that I want the frequency to follow over here on my piano roll. So if I play back the bass as it is, so I've got my line about middle, and that's set the frequency to 472 Hertz, and it's looping over. Now, what I can do is I can enter nodes in at any point across this line, and I can now drag the line up or down. So now if I drag that all the way down, what's going to happen is it's going to go, the frequency will slide from low up to about the midpoint in that menu. So let's have a listen. All right, let's go and look at the controller now. You can see there's a red dot by the frequency parameter. You can see I've taken the playhead back to the start, and you can see it's right down low. And as I press play, you'll see it sweep up on its own. So here we go. Okay, so let's add a few more parameters in just to see what else we can create. So I'm going to add some nodes in. I'm going to drag things up and down. You can see the nodes will lock into the grid line that we have set up on our piano roll. And if I want to remove a node, I can just double click on it and it will remove it. Okay. So here we go. I'll just play around with a few ideas. All right, let's have a listen. I went a little bit higher there. Let's just move that down. All right, let's watch the parameter now. You can see it's moving automatically on its own. Let's have a listen to how that is with the rest of the... Just get the mix a little bit better. So we can use automation to access any of the menus within our mixing session. And it's a really great way of breathing life into our mix, creating that movement of sound and texture and color. And it's the secret to any really high-end production. There's always some sort of automation being used to change parameters. It's a great way of introducing different textures. If we've got a very repetitive bass line, partway through the song we might actually automate in a little bit of a frequency shift somewhere to create just a bit of variation along the way. So once again, go check out YouTube, look at other artists and DJs and producers and see how they're using automation, and also listen to your music. Listen to any of the changes that are happening along the way, and 9 times out of 10 they're implementing automation to achieve that.